Okay. Well, good morning, good afternoon. We're really excited that you decided to spend some time with us today. We'll talk about a few things today. We will talk about the challenges specific to innovation in healthcare. BCG just published a report recently saying that innovation is among the top three priorities at 83% of major organizations, yet only about 3% are satisfied with how their innovation process is going. So innovation is a hot topic, and we'll definitely talk about this, particularly in the context of healthcare. We will talk about a proven methodology that helps solve innovation challenges. We'll talk about how AI can augment and strengthen that methodology. And we will talk about the large number of resources that are available to help you on the journey. Next, please. Healthcare is a very special field. First, do no harm has been the cornerstone of healthcare. Unfortunately, today, because of the complexity of the system, because of the number of stakeholders involved, because of the financial constraints, a lot of discoveries, a lot of new developments that could be saving lives, that could be alleviating suffering, are not making it to the healthcare providers and patients nearly as fast as they could, and I would argue should. Let me tell you a story. In early 1922, insulin was administered for the first time to manage diabetes to a patient. Eli Lilly produced the syringe that you see on your screen in early 1930s. And then for many decades, this is what it looked like. Nothing really changed. Same drug, same delivery method. Everything stayed exactly the same. But then something really remarkable happened. Eli Lilly, the same company, partnered with a world-class innovation organization called IDEO to reimagine how insulin was delivered. The result was QuickPen. The result was this little device. And it was a true breakthrough. Adherence improved dramatically, outcomes improved dramatically. Patients overwhelmingly preferred this new device to the old method. Now, here's the kicker. It took 15 years and it took millions of dollars to get to this device. What if I told you that we are, I believe, on the verge of shortening those timelines dramatically? You see, about once in a generation, technology makes a giant leap forward that makes things that were fundamentally impossible, not only possible, but commonplace. In the 1990s, the internet connected all of us to all of the world's information. In 2007, iPhone put access to that information in our pocket and tied it in with the physical location and the things that we see, hear, and say. A couple of years ago, a hence obscure company published a tool called GPT 3.5, and almost overnight, AI, which has been around for decades, right? People have been talking about AI as something that was 30 years away and always would be. That overnight became accessible to everyone, and that became a useful, powerful tool that could correlate massive amounts of data in seconds. Because this tool is accessible to everyone, though, it creates an additional challenge, and speed of innovation, speed of implementation becomes a competitive advantage. Everybody is trying to innovate. How fast you innovate will largely determine whether or not you succeed, whether or not you are among those who succeed in this Cambrian explosion. Now, AI is not just another tool. It is in many ways different from everything that we saw up until this point. Right? AI is the first time when we can not just use technology but collaborate with it. AI I would never claim that AI is sentient, but AI is able to bring together a piece of information that wouldn't necessarily fit in the head of any single human. Next, please. So in a couple of minutes, we'll talk about exactly how to apply this in healthcare, how this works. We'll show you what we have done and what can be done. But first, why should you listen to us? Who are we? My name is Andrew Perry. I've been in technology for close to 20 years now. I started two startups and I rebuilt the rural healthcare program for the Universal Service Fund, allowing the program to grow 5x in less than 2.5 years. And healthcare is personal for me because my kid's birth was difficult, and the second thing that I thought of when I picked him up for the first time was that I would spend the rest of my career helping the amazing doctors who helped him come into this world. So that's the reason I'm doing this. Bryan, over to you.
I know some of you here. My name is Bryan Cassady. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done a total of 11 companies in 6 countries with 8 exits along the way, which is a pretty good hit rate. I've also been a CEO in some healthcare companies. One was Sweet Bee, was a personalized diabetes treatment company. I was also the global marketing director of IBA, which is the world leader in proton therapy. And within healthcare, I worked with Novartis, AstraZeneca, Bayer, a series of hospitals, HMOs, and I notice here my biggest client there, Janssen, is not on the list. I also work with accelerators in universities. And I've got a confession to make. I've got a big mission right now. I'd like to coach, train 1 million innovators by 2027, but I'm a long ways behind on my target. I reached 5,000 this year, so if I keep on going at the same pace, I need 199 more years to go. My plan to close that gap is do a lot of stuff with AI, learn by doing courses with AI and sprints with AI.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're based. My name is Oliver Schreck. I've been in the medtech industry for 25 years in a variety of roles as an executive. I'm also an inventor. I'm holding myself over 25 granted patents around the world, most in the area of diagnostic imaging and also in AI area. Meanwhile, I'm working as a startup advisor, so supporting medtech companies specifically in order to really find their path in this confusing world that is called healthcare. I've been involved in AI since 25 years, and I put it in quotes because at that time it was called neural networks. It was a project at Siemens at that time in order to improve the quality of images. At the time we failed to deploy it because it was just too computationally intensive and there was no enough hardware to be deployed to a customer side in order to make it feasible to run and to deploy. Meanwhile, it's there as part of the product and out in the market and really working quite nicely. I put up this nice picture here from these beautiful boats as the America's Cup running in San Francisco in 2013. And the interesting part is they compete in boats that are nearly equal to each other. And the winning part is the team. So it's the selection about the team. And my point here being is if with us on board, you have a winning team here around what is AI innovation and utilizing sprints for that. So how does this come together? You see 3 people that have different background in different locations around the world. We met virtually and we discussed, okay, what are the challenges in healthcare? We have the background, all of us in this area. We figured out, well, there's compliance, there's complex products, regulatory challenges. It's really difficult to get the right stakeholders in the room, bias discussions. So really a lot of different challenges that hinder or kind of restrain how fast innovation can progress within a healthcare environment. So what is it? It's a slow process. much slower than a lot of executive boards and companies would have, and of course also the patients and the physicians there. It's hard. It takes a lot of time. Sometimes the ideas that come out are mediocre. I mean, a lot of products fail in the market at the end. And there's also a kind of a lack or a difficulty of testing, because very often the end user, the patient, is not the one that at the end pays for the product. Next slide, please. So we kind of summarize this into what we defined as the healthcare challenges here. So there's a time to market, the financial constraints, and the right market fit. The time to market, we have to deal with normally or often with really high complex products, MRI, CTs, PETs, or combination of those. Then you have to do sometimes clinical trials and validation that prolongate the development times. You have regulatory burdens, FDA, MDR, SFDA, depending on which markets you want to bring your product to. So this all results in really long development cycles. On the financial side is due to the development cycles, you have really high development costs for new products, a high investment in R&D. And you have long product life cycles. Very often the products that are developed in the medtech industry stay a long time in the market, 10 plus years. That means the kind of innovation, bringing new products into the market, is also hindered by this there. And then you have business model constraints, kind of the reimbursement models that are different around the world, in the US or in Europe or China or wherever you are. And then also the variety of the business models, kind of implementing a SaaS model, for example, is always still a little bit of complicated. So that is definitely one of the other constraints that we need to be taking into account. And then the right market. So the innovation rate for new products in healthcare is around 3 to 7 years, depending which specific area you are. And then very often, out of my experience and others, is that it's often engineering-driven innovation, and often engineers are not so close to the customers or don't have enough customer understanding and focus. So you sometimes come up with ideas that sound great on the paper, but are not really at the end bringing that value for the customer. And then there's a challenge about aligning all those different stakeholders. You have the patient, the healthcare provider, the payer, the physician, the nurse, and so on, IT department, bringing them on the table and really make sure that the product you're developing fits in there is definitely one of the other challenges there. So how could we solve this? So when you start with an idea, it's about making the idea better over time. Often it happens that you have bad cycles, and then at the end, the idea kind of loses and does not fit into the market due to whatever kind of challenge that I just laid out before. Or you don't do any changes, and yeah, you can be lucky, you can deploy something in the market that succeeds, or sometimes you just lose it there. So the important aspect is in that where we're going to focus also here is, okay, with the framework that we want to show to you is how can you use this to have learning cycles there and then really become a winner and implement a product that wins in the market. So how could we...
Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
How could this be better, faster with two tools? One is the so-called sprint framework that I'm going to present in a minute to you. And then is combining this with the power of AI that has become to fruition just in the last 2 years and really create something that I think is really unique that helps us to drive innovation forward in the healthcare sector. So, Bryan.
Okay. So there's two things that make cycle work. Well, one is to be focused, and second is to be fast. Equally important, it's the ability to focus on what is the important stuff to focus on. Normally, things move forward in an organization following what you'll call the Pareto principle. 20% of your effort delivers 80% of the results. What some of you might not know is that is an ongoing method. So 20% of 20, which is 4, and 80% of 80, which is 64, means that 4% delivers 64% of the result. What we're talking about here is the ability to focus in on the most important things and make those things move forward. And a question I'd have for you, Oliver, coming back to you, is what are the most important things?
I think the most important things here is to really be able to define the problem that you want to solve on a variety of different aspects, bringing all the kind of stakeholders to the table and make sure that everyone is heard and that you're really able to come up with the right solution for the problem. And that starts with defining the problem correctly at the beginning. And when I say different stakeholders, I mean, on one side in a company, for example, the sales department that wants to sell it as best as possible and as many new features as possible for each release. Then on the other side, sometimes the engineering department that wants to kind of gold plate some of the solutions and make it really shiny and specifically, and sometimes then missing the customer focus as they are not sitting on the table very often. So coming up with the right solution can take years. So what would be great? It would be great that you could have kind of like a big beach party where you invite everybody, have a lot of fun, bring in those stakeholders, experts, and partners in there to have this running. But that, as you probably also know, is not always possible to do. So we want to present you a concept that is called the sprint framework, that is based on a book published by Jay Knapp when he was part of Google Ventures. It is really how we want to utilize this in innovation sprints to drive idea forwards in just kind of 5 days as he proposed. So what it is a simple framework that you kind of bring in the people for kind of a defined period. Let's assume we've defined it for a week here, and then make sure that they are all there on the table, and then you move through it. So you start on Monday, kind of really defining the problem, choosing the target that you want to do. Then on Tuesday, you sketch out competing solutions. You decide then on Wednesday kind of the best options that are there. On Thursday, you really build a small, realistic prototype, 1, 2, or 3, in order to show them then on Friday to some target customers and test out if what you have decided is reasonable. So it's a really strong framework here that allows you to focus, to test, and to really create results here. You have the ability to the focus to reduce the time to market, to rupture the silos because you have all the stakeholders involved in that one, to test it, to make sure that you have achieved a right market fit in this. And by this, make sure that you also have revenue at the end that comes out of what you have created. So it's a framework that is pretty simple in the sense that you need to define how long you want to run it, what kind of deliverables, and then kind of a very defined process how to ensure deliverables. So in fact, everyone can lead this. It's pretty flexible. Also, if you're not the experienced one, you can normally guarantee really good results out of that. And it's really good documented. There's quite a lot of articles and books and in LinkedIn articles and so on. And we will give you a link to all these tools also at the end of our speech where you can access this.
So what I'd like to add one thing. I've run close to 100 sprints. Even the sprints that fail still tend to deliver good results because you get people working together, talking together, and focused in doing important things. So although it's a clear defined framework, there are some certain issues. As the first one, often when you run the sprints, what happens is that the team, due to the composition, chooses the wrong challenge to solve. I mean, if you don't are clear about what you want to solve and for which market, for example, you want to solve it, then you will come up with the wrong challenge. The wrong challenge will then, of course, lead to the wrong result at the end. The composition of the team is really important. You really need to make sure that is a team that can work together, that is willing to learn from each other, and that are able to really focus there during this week also and create the alignment around the challenge here. Due to the time constraints, what happens often that people come up with kind of the obvious idea, where they're coming from, and are really difficult to sometimes push people out of their kind of internal boundaries and constraints to step aside and see it from a different perspective. So to step out of the comfort zone sometimes and be open to other ideas without constraining them. And creating then at the end also sometimes a selection bias because that's where the people come from. So they decide in one direction only instead of just trying to be open here.
There's in this process, there's no kind of time for soaking. So kind of let the idea sink in. There's a concept that we're going to explore a little bit further down. Bryan is going to talk about how we have implemented this in our combination of frameworks. And by having this kind of issues that I just mentioned, what comes out that are kind of low fidelity ideas that are half baked, that are not really kind of vetted out to make sure that they're really proven to succeed in the market at the end. The other problem is that sometimes weak action plans come out. So you have brought all people into a wonderful week, everybody's powered up, and then after a week, everybody goes back into the routine. And what happens then? No action plan to move from a prototype into a real product, or it takes again ages to kind of go through all the different approval processes in a company to make it happen. So at the end, with a week and trying to do this also fast, there's really much time needed. And we will show you how we can accelerate this process, how can we make it much faster and much more efficient. So what we have done here is we have created a AI for Innovation toolkit that consists out of 259 tools and 6 applications that work with each other seamlessly together. You don't need to learn 259 tools, but it's really amazing how they help you to generate new ideas, to evaluate ideas, and to at the end come up to a really good pitching deck. And Bryan is going to walk you through all this in a minute. So it's just a kind of a peek about where this is all going. So what we have done is we have augmented the framework, the sprint framework, with AI. We're starting with a more thorough market assessment, persona testing, creating what is a true north, clear definition about the goal and the challenge that we want to do here. We then start to define better the problem. We integrate any kind of stimulus that needs to go in. Then we ideate around the ideas. We merge ideas together. We generate a lot of ideas due to the power of AI here, and then start to decide on which is the best idea, create clarity, get synthetic users to help us to concentrate on what is the best idea, and then create high fidelity MVPs, interviewing, involve a risk analysis, and at the end, we create a pitch deck that we can take over to a management or a board meeting in order to get it reviewed there. So what we then do is we combine this all together, add a little bit of soak time there, and come up to, instead of having 5 days, we really hone it down to 2.5 days, where we create even more results in half of the time here.
So effectively what we're doing here is we're taking 5 days, squishing it down to 2. We take some time off because our brains need time to think. And then we add a half day, which is not normally part of a sprint program, which is about testing and deciding. And you get very different results. Now,
now comes for me the $1 million question here to Bryan, who is the sprint expert between us three. Is okay. What kind of proof points do you have? Yeah, you said you have used it over 100 times or even more. And where do we have used it? What kind of results does it have provided to you till now?
So, the basic design sprint is we build a product solution. In terms of the pre-event, we don't change much in terms of modifying, but for each area that we work in, we make some differences. But it's essentially a basic recipe, which is we prepare for success. The most important part of a sprint is actually not what you do together, but what you do before it. Secondly, making sure that you can bring in the right experts to make things happen. And then you try to think about what's specific about an individual market, which is different, and modify it to fit those needs. So my question to you, Oliver, is what would need to be different in healthcare?
there's a variety of different things that need to be changed, in my opinion. So we need to add some more time for a clear market assessment, make sure that what we are looking for in the product is viable to deployed and to be run in a variety of different markets. We need to involve experts. So, for example, we need to make sure that regulatory department is involved there. We need to make sure that we have created something that is able to sustain a business model focus, to make sure that business models, ideas are incorporated and able to run there. Healthcare products very often are not just standalone products. They integrate in a complex environment in a hospital. So we need to make sure that there's a system focus, that this is possible to connect it in healthcare environments. And the testing is harder. We often do not deal with the end customer. We deal with a variety of different stakeholders in between that have different requirements to us. So we need to make sure that we consider different testing kinds of verification and validation requirements when we look at this.
Oops. So I'd like to encourage people, if you're willing to write down some questions that you might have, comments. I mean, for you in healthcare, are we hitting the right stuff? Since people are shy, it's easy to do this in the chat, but if you're not shy, would love it if you asked a question out loud, because probably what's in your mind is in other people's minds. I go back to my university days, and you always try to pick on a student. But Alex, you got your screen on right now, so I can pick on you. Tell me, do you have any questions, or what do you think so far?
Yeah, I actually, thanks for picking on me. Okay, so what I was intrigued about is, first of all, I love the idea that you can accelerate the process, and I'm also particularly intrigued by the comment that you made about what happens after the actions, the commitments that are made subsequent to the sprint. Because as you guys said, it's a half-baked idea. How does somebody kind of get something tangible out of it, and then commit to taking specific actions to move it forward? And then how do you guys help with that process? So it's not specific to healthcare. I think it's more generic, but I do have a healthcare question as well, but that was my top of mind question.
So there's two questions that come together. One in the chat, which is, do you have specific AI tips? And the second one here is, how do you take action? And actually, I can answer both of them at the same time. Is don't rely too much on AI. AI is a tool. It is not the solution. If you're building a house, you don't have a hammer strategy, but what you use is a hammer to build part of your house. It's the same thing when you're running a sprint. What I want to go ahead, Ender. You had a comment there.
No, that wasn't me.
Okay, so let's look at what we have in terms of a healthcare version. So as I talked about earlier, the most important change that you're looking at is, how do you prepare things? What we can do is we can add expert research groups, a lot of prep work to make sure that the time that you spend together is done effectively. As a good rule of thumb, it's a few days of prep work for every day that you're spending together. In terms of alignment, one of the problems that you have is if you don't have the whole team there, you have an issue. So what we do in the healthcare is we make sure that we have a good cross-section of the people there, the unit engineers, product managers, developers, regulatory, and all that kind of stuff together. In terms of the building of ideas, one of the problems within healthcare is all these rules that are there. So we make sure that we add in regulatory review. In terms of communicating and checking ideas, Oliver talked a lot about the need for user testing. A lot of times that's not possible. One of the things that's really fantastic with AI is to be able to use it to do synthetic user testing. Lastly, in terms of looking at things and how they fit together, doing some stuff in terms of system analysis. And then in terms of the soak time, add experts into the process to make sure it all fits together and bring it all together. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut a whole bunch of these slides out. We were actually talking about this before. But I want to talk a little bit about the benefits of AI and the downfalls of AI and put in context how big an impact you can have. One of the biggest benefits in AI is the ability to lift all boats. There was a study that was done just recently with Harvard Business School and Boston Consulting Group. They took their top consultants and their bottom consultants and had them work on creative tasks. If you look within the bottom half consultants, you saw a big increase in terms of productivity, in terms of creative output, a 43% increase in productivity. And in the top half, you saw a 17% increase. Now, what's interesting in this is both groups gained. 17% increase is at 1 day a week. That's a big thing. But the big thing, the really big thing, is the bottom half and the top half turn out to have exactly the same productivity in terms of the creative output. So AI can be brought in, it lifts all boats. The second thing that's important to realize is while it's lifting boats, it may lead you down the wrong river or down the wrong place. They had in this test, which I think is brilliant, is they gave the consultants tasks to solve which AI could not solve. They had one group solve it without AI, and one group that got a whole bunch of training on how to use AI effectively. Now, you'd say, oh, that group with AI is going to be better at solving this task. But if AI can't solve the task, actually what people tend to do is they tend to over-rely on AI. In this specific task, the consultants not using AI got it wrong 15% of the time. The consultants using AI got it wrong 40% of the time. So you have this thing which is an upside and a downside. Now, within the use of AI, there's a lot of myths that are there. One is that AI is fantastic for content. The reality, AI is not very good with content. It's really good for rewriting. AI is high quality on its own. Reality is no, you need constraints and domain expertise. And actually, one of the things I think is really strong is the need for more domain expertise when you're using AI than when you're not. AI is faster? Sometimes. If you get a few thousand pages, it doesn't speed things up. It's only faster when it's done right. Now, within the use of AI in the innovation context, one of the things we like a lot is we like to develop ideas. If you have a situation where you just ask AI to give you ideas, it'll give you relatively weak ideas. What you need to do is break a pattern to get better ideas. You have to give it a context, an action, and result. So think like this, do it this way, give me this result. You might also try few shot, which is giving an example of what you're looking for and having a chain of thought process. Effectively, what you're looking at is the quality of AI is based on the number of constraints you give it. Give me 10 ideas, we'll give you 10 mediocre ideas. Give me 10 ideas with detailed objectives. Think like this, do it this way, deliver results in this format, you'll get better ideas. Analyze the best ideas and improve on each of them, you'll get better things. Now, one of the things that's important to realize is the way to do this is not necessarily that complicated. You're going to see in a second, I'm going to give you some results on comparing humans with AI and humans with smart AI. The winning prompt, the winning way of generating ideas was 2 sentences long. Give me 80 ideas based on the transformative principles for our challenge, which is clearly defined. And give me 2 ideas for each of the 40 principles. So what I'm going to show you, so after this talk, you can get access to our AI for Innovation toolkit. It works pretty simple. You go click, you select a method of what you want to do. If you're doing idea building, you have to select, add your innovation target, and then you push get insights. And what'll pop out on the other side is a whole bunch of ideas. What we're looking at is the ability to generate hundreds, if not thousands of ideas in a few minutes. So imagine you're in a situation, you got thousands of ideas. Are those ideas any good? And this is where we're going to skip a bit. Because we did some testing looking at ideas generated by human beings. So we had 280 from human beings, 460 from humans plus ChatGPT, and 4,600 with ChatGPT and some smart prompts. So you can conceptualize the test is we're adding stuff each along the way. And I'm going to skip all of this stuff. And I'm going to tell you the basic results. When you look at ideas, you can look at ideas in three ways. You can look at the quality of ideas, which in our case was based on how meaningful and unique were the ideas. And in fact, what you'll find is that when you add AI into the mix, the ideas get better, but not a whole lot better. The second thing you would like to do is when you're looking at ideas, you'd like to have diverse ideas. And here, actually, you'll find that AI does exactly the opposite. Diversity here is measured with something called cosine similarity. 0 means they're very diverse, and 1 means they're not diverse at all. So in fact, what you see is as the ideas go this direction, they get less diverse. But one of the things that is very interesting is we're not actually interested in lots and lots of ideas, but we're interested in really good ideas. A human being working on his own, and with the challenge we had him working on, generates approximately 1 good idea for 100. When you add AI into the mix, they get 1.5, so they get a bump up. If we structure the way that they ask their questions, they get a bigger bump. And you remember that 2-line sentence we had before? That 2-line prompt, they get not only more ideas, but 8 times better ideas. What we're looking at here is not the fact that AI gives you more ideas, but it's the hit rate on those ideas. Now, to try and fit this in the time we have available, I'm going to run through an example and talk to you about how we might use AI in augmented sprint. I'll go through things step by step. Note, I'm going to show you things that come from 8 of the 259 tools. They're shown here because it's an easy way to demonstrate. As we said, we customize those things. We started, and this was a test that Oliver and I did. We were both in this sector as we looked at something which is cancer treatment gantry. A gantry is a big place that you put people in so they can get scanned and radiated to remove a cancer. And there's a big issue with these type of machines for children with cancer. It's a big, scary machine. The patients move, they feel anxious, and the treatment quality goes down. So what we tried to do is say, look, imagine we wanted to run this challenge in a sprint. What would come out? Now, what we did is we ran through the steps of the sprint. If you're in the presentation, you can get a copy of the transcript by clicking on that link, scanning that link, or you can just wait and get it when the presentation comes out. Now, one secret here is it took us 5 times longer to make the slides than it did to do the work. So what we have is I'm going to take you step by step through the process, show you where AI can be helpful and where it can add value. The prep stage, as I talked about, is probably the most important part. Before AI, I used to work approximately 1 week for each day together. Now I work approximately 1 day for each day that I work with a client. We have a really cool tool to do a detailed market assessment that can be uploaded to a GPT, and that GPT can be used when you run a sprint together. When we put this stuff together, the next thing we do is we work on defining a specific objective for the time that we are together. This is too small to read here, but just trust me, it's useful. It's the things that you want to know. And we have something called a true north, which is a clear and specific way of defining an innovation challenge. We also do work identifying the personas we want to test with and making a GPT. So what we start out with is before the sprint is started, we have the list of objectives. We have information on the marketplace, and that can be used when we run the prompts that follow. So we got everybody showing up. They're there for the first day. The right way to start out a sprint is to focus on getting everybody aligned. We run what we call a lightning demo for alignment. We talk about what we learned, what we recommend, and the questions to consider. Everybody's trying to raise their ideas about the challenge you want to solve. We then turn that into a discussion about the true north. The true north is the one specific thing we want to achieve during the sprint. If this is poorly defined, you won't have a sprintable challenge and you won't get good results. We got a tool that allows you to evaluate that. We're not going to go through it. But now what we have is something really cool. Before I was talking about how we have a tool to generate ideas. If you can clearly define what you want to do, you can run a bunch of ideation prompts within the large language models. Here we have a total of 66 that we would run, and for each of these, we generate somewhere between 30 and 40 ideas. Now, originally, what I was going to have you do is I was going to challenge you to generate better ideas than the AI, but because we don't have the time right now, what I'm going to do is just say, look, imagine you were given the challenge that we were looking at. What kind of ideas would you come up with? What we looked at in this case is we looked at a challenge which is about enhancing the cancer treatment experience for children. We want to find ways to change that experience by creating a calming and comfortable environment and change the room to fit that. I said, look, that's a pretty reasonable change. So if we look at what we would do with AI, we would say, tell AI about your challenge. And that would start with the true north. And it would provide you some feedback on that. And this is all done in real time. So it talks about what is the challenge, and this is telling AI this is what you want to work on. If you get the initial target wrong, everything else follows incorrect. The second thing you can do is you have a request to build ideas, and we go back to my standby prompt. Please generate 80 ideas based on TRIZ, inventive principles for a challenge, which is defined as a true north. And for each of these, we'll get a series of ideas. Now, if you can imagine, this is coming out real time, step by step. The time it takes to generate 1,000 ideas is around 15 minutes. Now, the big question that comes up for anybody sitting here is, oh my God, what do you do with 1,000 ideas? Now, thank goodness you got AI there. And actually what you can do is you can say, what I'd like you to do is to evaluate it. If you download a copy of this presentation, what you'll get is you'll get the prompts that we run, the actual prompts. And you say, look, you got these ideas. Please review the 1,000 ideas you've just generated. Please pick the 3 ideas most likely to deliver on the objectives and constraints. And you can merge the ideas if you want and come up with one single idea. What we got from AI is we got 3 ideas and we put them down into one simple idea. This is the work that you might be doing in the whole first day. The time it takes to do this work, it's the AI time of your first day is 10 to 20 minutes. The rest of the time is people time and human time. Day number 2, we come together and we look at how we communicate those ideas. And what we do is we start out with something which we call a treasure demo, and everybody presents the best ideas they come up with. The idea is for human beings to synthesize and improve the ideas. It's not just the AI ideas, but it's working with AI. What we then do is we take those ideas and we have a series of prompts that we run again, which are about refining, extending, clarifying, focusing, modifying, merging all those ideas to make them more interesting and more exciting. We might have a series of prompts about making names. We might have selling lines for what we're doing. The key thing that we're doing here is trying to take this idea and make it touchable, tangible, and useful and interesting. We end this bit with a question about synthetic user testing. Now, this part for me is really, really interesting. There's effectively 3 parts. 1, create the synthetic users. If we've done our prep work correctly, that would have done before the sprint. We then ask for all these synthetic users, rate these innovation ideas, on a scale of 1 to 10. And then after you rate them, what I'd like you to do is give me some feedback and suggestions for improvement. And lastly, I'd like you to put it together in a clear, focused thing that we can move on. Okay, so what we've got our team aligned. We built some ideas. We've chosen some ideas. It's not the AI doing things, but it's the AI supporting people. We get to the systematically improved bit. And we might say, hey, you know what? We really like this idea, but we want to know what are the risks associated with this project. Please list the 10 key project risks. Pick 3 that we might be able to work on in a 2-hour project. So here's all the risks. We put them down to this. Now we say, okay, look, we'd like to put people in groups, work on these challenges. Tell me who we should put in each group from the people we have here. All right, AI, boom, 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 boom. We get to the point where, for me, this is the biggest difference between a traditional sprint. We all know we develop our best ideas in the shower. It's not this, it's the same at work. What you need is time away to think about what you want to do. When I was little, there was a sign up in my grandma's kitchen saying, the hurrier I go, the behinder I get. In fact, what you need to do is you need to have time to think about what you're doing. What we suggest during this time away is do some human testing. Remember those old things of human beings, those people in your office? We have a tool within the AI toolkit, which is to create an interview guide. You do the interviews, you iterate and approve. We have a tool to help you make a pitch. We have a tool to help you review your pitch. And the last bit is we have to make it real. So the last day, we've done some work generating some ideas. We use AI to visualize those ideas. And what we try to do is we come up with something that's more interesting. Now, the question that comes up here is, how do you move forward? And I look at the things that we have. Are you working only with ChatGPT, or are you using other tools? We use lots of different tools, but in fact, the go-to, the standby tool, the one that's best in all the cases is ChatGPT right now. We've done it with Claude. We've done it with a whole bunch of different ones. So now what we have, we've gone through this process. The last day that we are together, we focus on working together as people. We present to people, not to AI. We get feedback from people, not from AI. People take a break. They have to work on improving it, and they present it back to management. We use the AI to provide some feedback on what's going on and planning for the next steps. What we see in this process is typically we get 2 to 3 times more results in half the time. And we have run in the same company an AI-augmented sprint versus a non-AI-augmented sprint. And the numbers weren't 2 to 3 times, they were 4 to 5 times. The reason for it is we fix some of the problems over there. We get more deep thinking about strategy. We get bigger and better ideas, and we get more ideas. We get more idea testing and validation. We get better looking things to test. And we end the session with something which is action oriented. I'm looking. Oliver, can you look at the question that came in? I would really.
Yes, I'm looking at it right now.
So our promise for a company who wants to run an AI augmented sprint is we promise to do more in 2.5 days than you ever thought possible. That's 2.5 days together. It's not 2.5 days for us. We spend more than that. What we do in that time, we identify the key strategic issues. We get people aligned. We build ideas. We evaluate ideas, and we make real decisions. The budget is somewhere between 20 and 50,000 euros, depending on whether it's remote, in person, or the number of experts. Whew, I can't believe I got through that in time. Andrew, it's over to you, man.
All right. Thank you, Bryan. Yes, this was amazing. Okay, so we covered a lot of ground today. Let's recap real quick. We have just a few minutes left. We have a powerful methodology that has been proven across industry. So why do we need AI in this? Right? AI is not here to do the work for you. AI is not here to replace humans. AI, however, is able to pull in and cross-correlate a lot more information in support of the human innovation process, development process. Right? We shared just a few examples, but there is a lot more. And to answer one of the questions that popped up in the chat, yes, we do use all the tools that are available. And the GPTs that Bryan was referring to, these are actually custom-tuned instances of AI. So it's not a run-of-the-mill chat GPT. These are custom-tuned to your needs and to your challenge. Next, please. So challenges in healthcare are real. Challenges in healthcare make it a unique area to apply AI. As we talked in the beginning, timing is very, very important. Financial constraints are very important as well. Figuring out the payer situation, figuring out there's a lot there to unpack. And market fit is always the difference between success and failure. The sprint methodology works. It works in healthcare. It works elsewhere. And if we focus on doing the right things the right way, we get results that let us achieve our desired outcomes. With the help of AI, we can speed it up, we can focus it, we can de-risk it, turning sprints into a highly focused super tool to move your organization forward. What does this look in reality? Right? So we will share with you all the sources that we talked about. We will share with you the toolkit that Bryan was talking about. Again, the open access version is somewhat generic, but still very useful. If we work directly with you, we tailor all those tools to your needs and your organization. But with all this information, with the sprint methodology and AI tools being widely accessible, could you do it on your own? Of course you could. Right, so you could go and read all that and learn those tools. That said, we have spent thousands of hours learning all that we know, and lost the slide there. If you choose to work with us, if you're in a hurry or you choose not to spend the time tracking that rapidly developing field, what we bring to the table is the knowledge of the market, the industry, the methodology, and the project management expertise to make it happen. And also our past clients tell us that it is fun to work with us. Innovation is an iterative process. It's never a one shot. Every turn of that spiral builds on the last. And we have built that iterative approach into how we do things. So we would help you walk up that spiral from a poorly defined challenge to a finely honed pitch to your decision makers. And also, we're more than happy to talk to you about your specific needs if what we offered here today, if what we talked about today does not address that. We have other versions, other formats of the sprint. We can do custom training. We can do a lot of things. So we're happy to talk about a la carte solutions tailored specifically to you. So with that in mind, we would appreciate your input. We would love your advice as to how we can make this better. If you scan the code or access the link on your screen right now and give us some feedback, give us some thoughts on how you think this went and how we could make it better, we'll share all the resources that we talked about. We'll share access to the innovation toolkit. And we will also share the recording of this talk so you can review it. So most importantly, I want to thank you for spending the time with us this morning or this afternoon. It's been a pleasure presenting this work to you. Please connect with us. Please reach out to us. We are actively monitoring new developments in this field, and we are excited to see what you will do with all these amazing tools that are online now and are coming online every day now. Okay, with that, we would love to answer any questions that you have.
So there were a number of questions about diversity. And there's a great book out there by a guy named Scott Page called The Difference. And actually, he's mathematically proven that diversity is more important than skill in generating ideas in almost every context. One of the greatest things about AI in the innovation process is AI can be another perspective, another viewpoint that you don't normally have within your team. So it exponentially improves your results. If you want, I'm more than happy to send off some information there. Other questions, comments? One of the things that'd be really cool is if you download the slides and you look at what I went through at a blazingly fast pace, you would actually be amazed at the quality of ideas that are generated. It's not generic ideas. It's not weak ideas. It's really good ideas. And as we saw earlier, somewhere between 5 and 8 times better than you might do with human beings. And it also goes a lot faster. So knowing how hard it is to ask the first question, would somebody like to start with the second question? Oh, it's so cool.
And if not, we'll hang out here for a couple of more minutes. But thank you for being here with us. Thank you for spending an hour of your time, and we hope this was useful.
Remember to take down the link. I think you'd be really happy to get the tools afterwards. And 1 hour free is a pretty good deal, looking at how much you could do within an hour. Let's see what we can do. Okay, if anybody wants to take off, take off. We're going to stick around for about five more minutes. Anybody has a question, comment that you're afraid to ask in front of other people, just, and I will stop sharing my screen. Alex.
Hi, everybody. Yes, so I did leave a question in the chat. I don't know if you had the chance to read it.
Hi, Carolina. Here's Oliver. I read your question. I think there's a variety of different angles to what you're asking here. One is of the usage of AI for diagnostic imaging, which is one part. Then utilizing classification models and prediction models. That is definitely more the utilization of AI within as a product. We're not talking to utilize AI here as a product. It's more using AI for generating ideas there. So I'm not sure in which direction your question is trending.
More of your opinion about how possible it is to escalate or to have actual products of machine learning and AI in healthcare, so as a product.
Yeah. There are meanwhile hundreds of FDA-approved AI products in the market, from diagnostic imaging to oncology to I don't know which, all different areas where they're using this every day. They're approved more and more. So I don't think it's a question about if, it's a question of how many and how much this can help to improve the workflow and improving healthcare. So for me, AI is another tool.
Yeah. So an old part of AI tools is neural networks. and things like that. And one of the things that AI has an ability to do is find patterns that people miss. And when you find patterns that people miss, you can develop new products, new services. You can also be much more accurate in the types of things that you're doing. I do work with a proteomics company, which is looking at personalized medicine backed up by AI, but not AI, which would be large language models, but AI, which is predictive impact of different drugs and things like that. Really good question, Carolina. Hey, Chantal.
Hey, thank you for the presentation. I was driving, so I couldn't really interact, but really appreciated it. It was fun to hear about the sprints. Great to see Oliver again, so thank you for that. I wonder if the offering that you have, the service that you're offering, if it's more for startups that have sort of this want to develop something new, or an existing department, because I think that the challenge, and it's been mentioned a little bit before, the challenge for larger organizations is sort of the execution plan. So do you also offer sort of hand-holding for how to facilitate the execution of the plan?
Let me answer this one, Chantal. I think that the value of the framework that we offer is that doing this kind of continuous validation again and again about the idea through the development cycle, make sure that you stay on the path, that you again and again evaluate the idea, that again and again you use synthetic user testing, and kind of make sure that you stay straight on the path, moving upwards, and do not decline in what the original idea was, which is sometimes what often happens. You start on the beginning with a TRL level 0 or 1, and then when do you validate it again? Okay, whatever. Might be 3, 4, and then might be there's a kind of a process that the idea is really validated, sometimes not. And so with this concept here, it helps you to really kind of run this again, because it's really fast. As Bryan explained, it gives you the results really fast.
Yeah.
You can validate the idea during the development cycle and make sure that you stay on the path.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, thank you.
So Chantal, I'd like to add one thought there. It's easiest to sell this to a startup, but they're less likely to get a benefit than a big company. Startups tend to be agile. They tend to be learning oriented. They tend to be, let's try it out. If you really want to make an impact, this works really well in a big company because it gets you to think different and do things different.
The only caveat that I would add here, Bryan, is startup companies very often miss all the relevant stakeholders in the questions they ask.
They go really fast in the wrong direction many times.
Exactly.
So,
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers. All right, we're going to cut it off. If anybody has a last question, we can do one more question. Cool. Thank you very much. Oliver, if we could stick around for just a minute together, we can do a quick debrief. That would be cool. Thank you, everybody, for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.